everyone, I'm Graham Ledger, and welcome to the Daily Ledger. Our cover story, Marco's Dark Tuesday in the Sunshine State. If you believe the polling, sometime next week, Marco Rubio will be officially finished as a presidential candidate for 2016. According to the latest polling, Donald Trump is crushing Rubio in his home state, Florida, and it's not even close. A One America News poll of Republican voters in Florida, Trump 47%, Rubio 22%, and Ted Cruz at 17%. Now, these numbers, if correct, are devastating for Rubio, who is staking his entire campaign on Florida.
Donald Trump has a hard ceiling of 35 to 40% that he can't get above. Now, Donald benefits when there are multiple candidates that are splintering the opposition. Donald wants the other candidates to remain in the race because it splinters his opposition. When the opposition unifies, Donald loses. So what I would encourage is the men and women of Florida, if you don't want to see Donald Trump as the nominee, if you don't want to see Hillary Clinton as the next president, I encourage you to join us because we are the only campaign in the position to beat Donald Trump.
So we've been winning a lot, and now this week we have Florida, which is an amazing place. You know, I mean, it's going to be amazing. And we, as you know, we have Ohio, where you have an absentee governor. Absentee. And we're going to have, I think we're going to do great in Ohio. We'll do great, great, great in Ohio.
It's been a tough week for your campaign, and the big question on a lot of people's minds today is, are you preparing to drop out?
No. You know, what's funny about that? I don't know what's happened in this campaign. Every week someone else is supposed to be dropping out. I am not dropping out. I'm fighting all the way through, and we're going to win Florida. We're going to win Florida.
All right, but here's the problem for Marco. Let's say he takes Florida. Then what? Where is the avenue to the Republican nomination? The path right now leads straight through Trump Towers as long as there are more than two candidates in the race. So when does that dynamic finally change? Joining me now from San Francisco, California, Vice President of Axiom Strategies, Brandon Moody. Brandon, I don't have the answer to that question. Do you? When do Marco Rubio and John Kasich finally decide to drop out? You have any insight into that?
Well, I don't have any insight on that, Graham. Thanks for having me on. I do believe that it's time for them to step aside, and for those in the Republican Party that are interested in stopping Mr. Trump coalesce behind Senator Cruz. He really is the only person set up in a position to defeat Donald Trump. He is the one that has beaten him 6 times already, and he's only, in terms of percentage of delegates, the only one who could coalesce that community and win.
99 delegates behind Donald Trump right now going into this Tuesday. But in Florida, Donald Trump at 47%, according to our OANN poll, and Marco Rubio at 22%. Now, those are the polls that pollsters do on the external sense. There are also internal polls. Is Marco Rubio seeing something different that we don't see?
Well, look, I have a tough time believing that Donald's at 47% in Florida. I looked at your survey, and doesn't jive with the surveys I've been seeing, both nationally and in specific districts in all across the country that are similar to what we're seeing in Florida. But you know, even if you look at the Wall Street Journal's recent survey, shows Senator Cruz and Mr. Trump neck and neck. And so I do believe that it's time for Marco to drop out and for Senator Cruz to kind of coalesce those voters. I mean, we're seeing in other states that voters are not hardcore for any Republican yet. They're for those that they believe can win. And that's why you saw a lot of people leave Senator Rubio's camp in some of the southern states and come to Senator Cruz's, and that's why the polling was so off, I think, in places like Kansas and even in northern states like Maine and Idaho, so and western state like Idaho. So there is a bit of a fungible nature of this campaign, and voters are moving to those who they think can defeat someone that they're opposed to.
Okay, so to that end, right now Donald Trump is leading in Ohio, Illinois, and North Carolina, but and I'm going to use but advisedly, he's leading in the high 30s. So that tells me that somewhere around 60% is not supporting Donald Trump. Do you believe that he has a hard ceiling, or do you believe that once we see Kasich and Rubio leave the race, that he will inherit some of that support?
Well, of course he'll inherit a little. But inherit a little. I mean, that's just impossible to say that the person who drops out will get 100% of someone else's vote. But no, he does have a hard ceiling, and it's going to be tough for him to break 40 in a lot of these places. I mean, it's very clear. Someone who starts with 100% name ID and all of this baggage has a bunch of hardcore voters, but that's about it. He's hit a ceiling. We've seen it 12 times now. I mean, look in Louisiana. Everyone's bragging about how he won Louisiana. Well, he got the same amount of delegates that Senator Cruz did, and that is with all of this anti-Trump vote down the ticket, you know, splitting to Rubio and Kasich and others, you know, that are splitting off. This hard ceiling is pretty clear. It's about 40. But
he's calling for Marco Rubio to drop out of the race, and you would think if he wants to sort of, as some people might call it, kind of back into the nomination with maybe high 30s, low 40s support, which apparently he could do, he would want Marco Rubio and John Kasich to stay in the race as long as possible, correct? Keep splitting the vote.
Yeah, I mean, well, Trump's not a strategist. He's just, you know, he's bombastic, and all of these things are meant to bully other candidates and create, you know, energy for his own campaign. And so, you know, when Trump calls for someone to do anything, I don't think we should put, you know, a lot of strategy behind that, other than his entire strategy is to get media.
Okay, so for the Cruz campaign, there is a sense of urgency here, because on the other side of the coin, as long as Kasich and Rubio stay in, it hurts Ted Cruz. And frankly, I think that a lot of Americans, a lot of Republicans would like to see it come down to a mano-a-mano race between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. It really sets up that way. But here's the question. Why do you suppose Cruz has had so much trouble in the South? A lot of people think he should have performed better in some of the southern states. Do you think that Donald Trump is just sucking all the air out of those states right now?
Well, I think I've said it before. I do believe that populism plays into this a lot. But Senator Cruz is, and that's where the South can kind of trick you. A lot of Democrats were voting for Mr. Trump in these open primaries. But let's face it, I mean, you know, he's won some states where he hasn't racked up delegates. I mean, Louisiana is the best example, I think. They called Louisiana for Trump within minutes of polls closing, but he won no more delegates than Mr. Cruz did. And Senator Cruz has the exact same number of him in many of these southern states because of our vaunted turnout, of his vaunted turnout operation, and all sorts of things that are pushing his campaign forward. I don't necessarily buy the fact that Senator Cruz is doing poorly in the South.
All right, so finally here, and I'm almost out of time, straight up against the wall here, Brandon, but Marco Rubio, is he hanging in there because he thinks he can actually win in Florida? A, B, because he wants to be a vice presidential pick? C, because he thinks there might be a broker convention, he can get in there that way? Or D, because he's going to be unemployed soon? Or is it E, all of the above?
It's probably D. He probably thinks there's some kind of 1% chance that he'll be the savior at a brokered convention. But look, no one wants that. It's not good for our party. It's not good for anything relative to a presidential nominee going forward, because there will be so much fighting. I do think it's time for Senator Rubio to drop out, and I do think it's time for those who want to stop Donald Trump to coalesce behind the only person that can do that, and that's Senator Cruz.
Well, he has won Texas, of course, Senator Cruz has, and Donald Trump has to score well, in my opinion, in Ohio and or Florida, because, of course, you can't win a general election without Texas, Ohio, and Florida. We shall see. Brandon, thank you. Coming up next, the Republican establishment's nefarious conspiracy to dump Trump. Also ahead, remembering the most graceful First Lady of our time.
Reasons as to why these things happen when they happen, and but you know, a fair amount of tears and just a somber, sad time.